Firstly, I would like to thank the Lord for giving me this opportunity to come and share my testimony today. Though I'm not worthy, it was His grace that I am here amidst you all. I would start my testimony with few of the Bible verses which God has guided me with. From Psalm 105, first three verses. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people. Sing unto him, sing psalms unto him, talk ye of all his wondrous works. Glory ye in his holy name. Let the heart of them rejoice that seek the Lord. And the next verse is from Isaiah 30th chapter and 21st verse. And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee saying, this is the way, walk ye in it. When ye turn to the right hand and when ye turn to the left. The last one is from Hebrews 10th chapter and 23rd verse, which says, let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that has promised. I came to this country in September 2021 by the grace of God. I was praying for my studies from actually I completed my bachelor's of physiotherapy in NIMS hospital in Hyderabad. While I was in my third year only, I started praying about my further studies, about God's will, about my life, and where I should go and study and what I should do. And when I was praying for that, I was continuously praying about it for nearly 2 years every day. My parents were praying for me, and also I was praying for this in my personal prayers. And while I was praying, I was planning for abroad for my masters. When I was planning, all of my friends around were suggesting me to go to Canada or USA, as many people were going there, and they were suggesting me to go there for as there was better future over there. But I was still waiting on the Lord for His will for my life, and I was praying. As I was praying and fasting one day, I went to the church for all night prayer. I used to stay near Hebron I stayed for there for a few months, and while I stayed there, each room used to gather. All the youngsters used to come there for preparing for the competitive exams over there, and there were many rooms around, and our room used to go to the chain prayer hall every Tuesday for the all-night prayer. And while I was sitting there, the same day I was in the fasting prayer, and God, I was asking. By that time I completed my bachelor's as well, and the time was coming very close. I was not sure where to go and what to do. All my friends were getting into jobs, and few of them have already started their masters of physiotherapy in some college over there in Hyderabad only. And then when I was praying, God, the brother who was sharing the word, he directly opened the verse from Genesis 12 chapter, first verse to 13 chapter, third verse. And it says in the first chapter, now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house and unto a land that I will shew thee. And I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great. And after this, and it ended with the verse from Genesis 13 chapter and till third verse. And he went on his journeys from south even to Bethel, and unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. And I was praying for this will, and God clearly spoke with me from this chapter, from Genesis 12 chapter. And as I prayed, I was praying one thing: Lord, lead me to the right place where you want me to go. Lord, close all the doors which are not for me. Lord, I'm not mature enough to exactly find out your will and go. But if I try to find it out by myself, I might do a mistake. But Lord, please don't stop your will to be fulfilled in my life by my deeds or something. Lord, guide me in the right way and close all the doors which are which are not from me. And I was not having plans to come to UK at all. I don't know, somehow God brought this to my mind. And the other thing I was praying was that, Lord, guide me to the best universities where I can go and study, and also where I can be used for you. As I prayed, I applied for the universities in the UK. And after applying I got an offer letter from Cardiff University. After getting the university, I got to know that for physiotherapy, it is the third ranking university in the UK. And I was completely amused by how God was answering my prayers. I asked for God, and God directly answered my prayer. And as I came here, I came in the month of September, and in the October I spoke with William Uncle, and in October I came here once, and after that my friends started going to the part-time jobs, and it is where my downfall has started. Actually, I forgot with what kind of prayers I have been coming here. And Satan was so knack in sidetracking me in everything. Actually, my friends used to come to Bristol to work in a warehouse in the same car, and the pay used to be very high compared to the other part times which we get in the city center in the Cardiff. Usually, the pay in warehouses is around £14, and the pay we would be getting is just £9 or something in the city center if I work. But my parents were so concerned about me that even though if you get less pay if you work in the weekdays, you should honor God. I was being taught the same thing from my childhood, that I should honor God and God's day. But I don't know how I was so foolish. I unintentionally went away from the God. There was a church near in Cardiff. I used to say, Uncle, that I attended church in the city church, Cardiff. They have 3 services in the day. It used to be just for 1.5 hours. So I used to make myself understand, saying that what happens if I go to this church, not going to the Hebron Fellowship, which is in Bristol. I'll attend a church for 1.5 hours here and then go to my part-time. What's wrong? I gave my time to God. That's sufficient. I was Satan was trying to make me understand in that way. And I literally heard the word of Satan. For a few weeks, I tried to attend the church over there in Cardiff like that. And slowly, I was tired by the work of Saturday, and I used to neglect the church on the Sundays. I used to only come here when William Uncle used to call me. And that's how in complete 2022, I was slowly completely away from the Lord, and I was completely weak spiritually. I was away from his body. I was away from the table. I was away from, though I was having my daily portions, it was just like a tradition I followed from my childhood. The first thing I have to do after getting up is just reading the word of God. I used to read and do my things. When I realized by the end of the day, I was at a state of failure, both in my studies and also in my spiritual life. I ended up somewhere far from God, and God was not so harsh towards me, but the loving God was so kind enough and so loving that he didn't leave me like that in that low state. But God, with all his love, he brought me back again. I'm so grateful to God for his love, which I can't explain with my words. Actually, he didn't leave me to that curse or that state of thing where I have been falling down. As I was cross-checking my life, the way I came here and the way God was using me while before coming here, I was left with nothing actually after coming here in the year 2022. But I'm so thankful to God for God-fearing parents who are continuously praying for me, and also I'm thankful for William Uncle and Auntie who continuously prayed for me. And Uncle never left me like that, but Uncle also used to call me. And from there, in the month of September, again, I slowly started coming to this fellowship. I have till the time I came here, my parents taught me to depend on God and take God's counsel for everything. But after coming here, when I was staying away from God, I could not clear 2 subjects in my university. And at that time, instead of coming to God, The most foolish thing that I did was I just took the counsel of someone outside the God's church. Instead of taking the counsel from the godly people or from the uh, parents or someone who is spiritual or closer to God, I took the counsel from people who are away from God, and of course, I'll be getting a counsel which is worldly, and I followed that. And not only that, I after listening to them, I have withdrawn my course. I forgot with what promises God has brought me here, with what kind of prayers and purpose, eternal purpose God has brought me here. And after being withdrawn from the course, Cardiff University is so prompt in informing UKVA that they are no longer sponsoring me the visa. And when I came to know that they are not sponsoring me the visa, I started praying. I started coming to God, but even at that point, I failed to ask God about what I should do next. Lord, you brought me here. Lord, I came to you. I am coming to your presence. Lord, guide me about what to do next. But again, it was a second step of failure. I took the counsel of the unbelievers again, and that's the reason I suffered for a long time, and I was still suffering. But God is a gracious God. He is not leaving my hand, but being so patient towards me, being so loving towards me, He didn't leave my hand, but He is still guiding me. Finally, 2022 was coming to an end, and as my parents taught me from my childhood, spend time at the end of the year. We used to spend time in God's presence, fasting and praying to prepare us for the next year. In the same way, I was praying to God with fasting for the last 4 days. And I, for the 31st, 1st, and 2nd, there were special meetings in London, and William Uncle invited me to come there. I was praying for those 4 days, and even though Uncle asked me to come, I was in a dilemma whether to go for the whole 3 days or only to go for one service and come back. I also told Uncle that I'll be coming only for one service, and then Uncle directly told me straight away, "You have no other work at home. You should directly come and stay there. We are all staying there and attending the meeting." And then God was speaking with me. Uncle is so busy with all his works, but in spite of that, Uncle and his family is staying there. What's your excuse to stay back? And with prayers, I went there and spent time on 31st, 1st, and 2nd. After going there, the service was started with confession session, as we all know in Hebron Fellowship. There, God was convicting me, and I was moved very much. Like when they started singing the chorus, the song, Krutagyatam Talavanchi. While they were singing, I don't know, God was literally speaking to me about my situation. Duramaiti ni prema marachi, I was literally in tears while singing that song. And the next immediate song was, I don't know how God guides with the God servants with anointment. The second song was, Great is Thy Faithfulness. And God was reminding me how His faithfulness was towards me in spite of all my shortcomings and how I was away from Him. He was so faithful in everything. Though I was away from Him, when I came to Him with confession and repentance, God embraced me back with much love. He gave me back all the promises that He has promised me. And as I was going, after, and also not only that, I prayed, and I was sitting after the songs are over. The confession prayer was over, and by that time it was 12. And I asked God for a promise for my life. Lord, speak to me very clearly about my life. I don't know where I'm going. I came here. I have lost the path. I am away from you. I don't know what I'm doing. Lord, please don't leave my hand, but speak to me very clearly. And when I was speaking, when I was praying that in my heart, and the prayers that I have done for the last week, not because of my prayers, but because of His love. The first verse itself in the motor card was, "The Lord shall guide thee continually." And I was in tears again. Even though I was so unfaithful to God, God was so clearly speaking to me about my life that He will not leave my hand and He will guide me continually. And also that I was praying about my personal promise as well. Lord, I don't know what you have in store for me for this year. Lord, speak to me very clearly with my promise as well. Lord, and then And not only that, as I will be staying here for 3 days, Lord, you should speak with me. Uncle should clearly explain me about my promises as well. And then while I was praying, I took the promise, but I didn't see. I usually have an habit of coming to home, spending time in the quiet time, praying, and then opening the promise. I attended the 3 days prayer meeting, and then I came back. And when I opened the verse says, according to Acts, first chapter, 8th verse, when in Telugu it says, పరిశుద్ధాత్మను పొందినప్పుడు మీరు యూదయలను సమరయులను బోధిగంతంలో నాకు సాక్షులై ఉందురు. And when I asked God to speak to me about my promise, on the third day of the special meetings, Uncle was speaking about the third verse in the motto card, which says, I will give peace in thy borders and fill thee with the finest of it. And in that promise, Uncle chose the verse being filled. And also Uncle was sharing about being filled with the Spirit of God, being filled with the being filled with the glory of God, being filled with the grace of God, being filled with the peace of God, being filled with the word of God, being filled with the wisdom of God and fullness of God. Finally, the 7th one was being filled with the Holy Spirit of God. And God spoke very clearly with me and what I can do by being filled with the Spirit of God and how God is going to use me in this year. God is so faithful, and I really had a blessed time in that on those 3 days. And after coming back also, God never left me. And during that time, my daily portion was Deuteronomy. As I was studying each and every chapter, it says, I will bless thee in the country that I am going to give you. I will take you to the land that I have promised you. God was making sure every day that I should not feel low. God's love towards us is really unexplainable, actually. From that day, after completing Deuteronomy, in Joshua also, God was speaking very clearly with me. I have shared the testimony with a couple of brothers over here in the fasting prayer as well. And in the same way, the January was over, and in the Feb first week, Feb 6th was the last day of my visa, actually. On the Feb first week, we had a fasting prayer as well. And in the before week, I was in a dilemma whether, and the other thing was the lawyer who I contacted and paid the money was not responding to my calls. And then I was in a dilemma and asking God, Lord, shall I stay or go? The others are saying me to stay here. They're asking me to go away because the visa will be over by 6th of February. The before week, and by God's grace, God helped me attend. I'm not boasting or something. I'm telling it for the glory of God. God helped me attend each and every Bible study and prayer meeting without missing even a single one in this new year. And in the last week of the January, one uncle was taking the sermon from India, and uncle was telling about the gates in Nehemiah, book of Nehemiah. And I was sitting in the Bible study with the same prayer, Lord, speak to me whether I should stay here or go back to the country. Lord, speak very clearly to me. I don't know what to do. Yes, Lord, I ended up in a messed up situation, but you are my only hope here. And then God spoke very clearly to me on that day. Uncle took the verse from Genesis 27th chapter, and in the verse 7, I guess, I'll just read it out for you. How God clearly spoke with me on that day to stay here. I didn't note down this in my phone, actually. I think it's in 20. Not 27. I forgot the reference. Uncle was clearly telling in which God speaks with Isaac, and the verse goes like this. Isaac stayed back in the same country, and he sowed, where he got back 100-folds of the fruit. And it was just written that he stayed back. Uncle was Yeah, in chapter 26, it was, yeah. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, in 26 it says then Isaac sowed in the land and received in the same year an hundredfold, and the Lord blessed him. ఇస్సాకు ఆ దేశం నందున్నవాడై విత్తనము వేసి ఆ సంవత్సరం నూరంతల ఫలం పొందెను అని చెప్పేసి అంకుల్ ఆ వాక్యం అంకుల్ మెన్షన్ దట్ వర్స్. అండ్ here it is mentioned that Isaac stayed back in the country, but uncle clearly told on that day that ఇస్సాకు తిరిగి తన దేశంనకు వెళ్ళక అన్న వర్డ్ యూజ్ చేసింది అనమాట. దేవుడు అంకుల్ని అట్లా ప్రేరేపించింది అది యూజ్ చేయడానికి. దట్ ఐజక్ డిడ్ంట్ గో బ్యాక్ టు ద కంట్రీ, టు హిస్ ఫాదర్స్ కంట్రీ. అండ్ గాడ్ వెరీ క్లియర్లీ స్పోక్ విత్ మీ ఆన్ దట్ డే. అండ్ ది after that I asked God for I also kept a condition in God's presence that if it is your will that I have to stay back, the lawyer herself should call me and drop the application. And it was in the Feb first week, we gathered for fasting prayer in Rajesh Anna's house, and Sammy Anna shared the word of God on that day. And God led Anna to take the word from Acts 7 chapter, in which Anna spoke with the same verse from the New Testament about the promise that God gave to Abraham. God once again confirmed that I have to stay back. And on the immediate next day, it was Sunday, and surprisingly the lawyer herself called me and dropped the application. I didn't even call her. So God very clearly told me that I have to stay back in this country, and she dropped the application. And the things were going on in that way. But as the days were passing, things were getting worse, but not better actually. In the recent last month, 15th of April, I got a mail from Home Office saying that the application that was dropped by the lawyer was rejected, and they gave me a 10 days of grace period to reapply to drop the application again. But sadly, the lawyer was again not answering the call. The days passed. I was holding on to the promises. As I don't know how many of you follow the streams in the desert. I have an habit of reading the streams in the desert every morning, and it was God was very clearly speaking to me from my daily portion, and as well from the streams in the desert as well. But coming to an end, if I look at the situations, everything was against me. But if I look at the promises, they are the only thing that were giving me hope. Finally, by the end of August, she didn't answer my call, and days were going. And William uncle called me the other day, and uncle and auntie, they were continuously praying for me. And uncle asked me to find out and speak with other lawyers as well. I spoke with multiple people over there, but no one and everyone told me and suggested me to go back to the country, and I was completely in a state of confusion. Not when I prayed 1 month ago, you clearly spoke with me with your word and also fulfill the condition to stay back. But when I look at the situations around here and everything, it says it's asking me to go back. And after the last date was 28th, and on 29th, as I was in my fasting prayer, on that day, Lord was reminding me about Joseph. After Joseph got the dream, each and every day the things got worse till his promise was fulfilled. God reminded me of Joseph from one of the sermon that was posted by CBF Church. Uncle was preaching about all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. In that, uncle was mentioning about the life of Joseph, how things turned even worse each and every day. If we look at the situations with the human mind, we estimate to see that they are completely going against, and we don't have any hope that the promise will be fulfilled. But God allowed all those situations to fulfill the dream that God has given to Joseph. In the same way, God encouraged me that day with that promise. And the last Wednesday, uncle called me about this saying, as every lawyer is saying you to go back, I also suggest you not to take risk and stay back, but pray. If God leads you to go back to the country, ask God, and God will speak to you again. then you can go back. Then I was in the prayer for the whole day, and on the day the other uncle also called me so that he can book the tickets for me. But I also asked uncle that I will tell him after the prayer meeting is over. And on that day, I didn't get any response from the God in the Bible study as well. The Bible study is over. And then I asked, William uncle called me immediately after the prayer is over. Have you decided anything, whether you want to stay or go back? And I said uncle, that I'm completely in a confused state, uncle. I'm not sure what to do. Once God asked me to stay back, and now the situations are like this. I'll read my daily portion and come back to you, uncle. I asked uncle for some time, and I prayed and knelt down in God's presence, and I was reading my daily portion from Matthew 13 chapter. God again spoke very clearly with me from the verse Matthew 13 chapter 53rd verse and 54th verse, which says, and it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these parables, he departed thence, and when he was coming to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, in so much that they were astonished and said, whence hath this man had this wisdom and these mighty works? And God was speaking to me with this promise. And the last verse says, and they are offended in him. And Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and his own home. And I was again confused, and I was praying for God's will, and God gave me a bit peace about going home. And I called back uncle and informed that, okay uncle, I will go. And even in my daily portion it says that God spoke with me like this with this verse. And in the same day, as uncle and auntie were praying for me, auntie sent me a verse from Genesis 28 chapter 15th verse. Actually, in that picture which auntie sent me, it was just I'll just read it out for you. In that verse, I don't know why దేవుడు ఎందుకు ఆంటీని ప్రేరేపించిండో అది పంపించడం తెలియదు. The two lines which were mentioned in the picture was, it is the Lord your God who goes with you. It says, it was the verse of the day for 3rd May, Deuteronomy 31:6. And the second verse was, I will not leave you until I have done that what I have spoken of you. And after speaking with uncle, I again knelt down and was reading these complete verses. And God was, I already came across this verse sometime in the past, but on that day, according to my situation, it was very clearly mentioned in 28:15, where it says, and behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee back into this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of. God was reminding me that I have promised you before bringing you to this land, and I will definitely fulfill that promise that I have given you, and I will bring you back to this country. That promise has given me a lot of peace in my heart. And once again, I called uncle and told that, uncle, I'm leaving back. I will go. God has clearly spoken with me with these verses. And uncle and also Nanama has prayed for me. And after not only these verses, I was continuing, and I was feeling a bit bad that I'm going back, thinking that I'm going back with nothing. I'm not having a degree. I'm not having at least a license. I'm not having a job in my hands. And then God was very clearly reminding me about. And then I asked God on that day before, while my visa was getting over, why did you stop me? And why are you asking me to go? And God reminded me of all the things that I have done in the last 40 days. How closer I have been to God. How it pleased God to use me in different places. And yesterday was as it was my last day, I was packing. I suddenly remembered that I didn't inform Michael uncle about that I'm leaving. Immediately, as I messaged uncle immediately came to me. Actually, at that time, William uncle has to come. Uncle wanted to come and encourage me with the word and pray for me and go. Uncle wanted to visit, but because of few things, uncle didn't come. But at that time, when I was low, God sent Michael uncle to me to come. And uncle made me read few portions from the Bible, and God gave me peace through that verses. I'll read those verses and end my testimony. from chapter 105, the verses which I read in the beginning, the first 3 verses, and then God was speaking very clearly, and again in this chapter also God was reminding me about the promise that God has given to me, about the promise that God has given to Abraham. I'm reading it out from Psalm 105 and 8th verse. He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, which covenant he made with Abraham, and his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying unto thee, I will give thee the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance. When they were but a few men in number, yea, very few and strangers in it, when they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people, he suffered no man to do wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes, saying, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. And God gave me much peace through this portion. And I'm so grateful to God for giving me uh, such a blessing as this, to be a part of this family. I'm so grateful to God for all He has done in my life. And as it is written in Isaiah 26:3, thou shalt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. As I am trusting in the God, God was filling me with perfect peace amidst all this chaos in my life. And I'm so grateful and thankful to God for giving me this family, this church as a family who is continuously praying for me in their family prayers and also personal prayers. I'm so thankful to God for this. Thank you so much for giving me this time. Continue to pray for me. And also, God has given me grace to distribute few tracts in few streets in Cardiff and also in different places. Pray for that ministry to be fruitful, and also pray that I should be faithful to God till the last minute. And also pray for my future decisions. And also, I don't know what God has in store for me and for what I'm going back. Let pray that God's will to be fulfilled in my life. And I thank you so much for everything. I thank the Lord.